Welcome. The purpose of this video is to get you set up for your GitHub repository to get the class repository locally on your machine. Right? This particular example is in Windows, and I'll have a comparable one on the Mac side. So GitHub is a server. Think of it as a cloud server that holds a set of files in the cloud. But unlike a Dropbox or an iCloud or a Google Drive, the changes that happen that are visible happen at discrete points in time. So that I can make a set of changes, and then when I tell you, you're going to say, okay, I want to get the most recent set of changes downloaded onto my local computer. We're always going to work on files relative to our local computer, and then when I give a new homework assignment or a new class assignment, you're going to get the new stuff, kind of this incremental layered on top into your version of the repository. Right, so the repository is named CS181-S21 for Spring 21, and it lives on GitHub. Right? In order for you to have your local sandbox where you get to work on your version of these files, we need to clone the thing that's on GitHub and put it on your local machine. That clone operation happens just one time. From then on, in order to get kind of the delta, the incremental, you'll do what's called a git pull. So the purpose of this video is to get you set up and to understand the local version of the GitHub repository by cloning it and then just exploring it as it resides on your system. Okay? Perfect. So in order to do this, I've got a couple of things available here. So down in the taskbar, I've got the Windows File Explorer, so I can take a look at what the system looks like. All right? And so under quick access, I can see I've got desktop and downloads and documents and pictures. For the purpose of this example, we're going to put our repository under desktop. That way it's really, really easy to get to. I can always find it. I know that it's under desktop. All right. At the moment under desktop, if I click, I can see these links to Atom, Loom, Microsoft Edge, and Activate Windows 10. And if I look in this bar up here, I say this PC, and in particular your user, and then from there we're going to desktop. All right, so this is where we're going to put our version of the repository. I'm going to move that to the side, and in order to do the clone operation itself, I'm going to bring up the Anaconda Powershell. All right, from the previous install video, we put this in our taskbar. If you didn't do that pinning to taskbar step, you should, after install, be able to find it under your start menu. I bring up the Anaconda PowerShell prompt, and it gives me this big black window with white text on it. And so here, the part before the blinking cursor is called the prompt. Right? If you see one of these, it means that this program, this Anaconda PowerShell, is ready for you to type a command and then hit return or enter on your keyboard, and then that command gets executed. Right? One of the simplest commands would be ls. If I type ls and hit return, it tells me at my home directory, what are the set of files and folders in that directory. So here's another view from our home where I can see, there's desktop, there's documents. We're going to, just like we did in the File Explorer, we moved from the home directory into the desktop. We're going to do the same thing in our command line prompt. All right? And so to do that, I'm going to say cd space desktop. Capitalization matters. So cd is the command to the command line window. That stands for change directory. If we're currently in our home directory and desktop is one of the folders underneath that home directory, then CD desktop allows us to navigate down into the desktop. If I do an ls here, I'm going to see the same things that I'm seeing in my file window over here. Activate Windows 10.txt, the links to Atom, to Loom, and Microsoft Edge. So we said that underneath desktop, this is the location where I want my clone, my sandbox, my copy of the repository to appear. And so to actually create the clone, we need a command that reaches up to GitHub and retrieves this repository and makes our copy locally. All right, so the command for that is git space clone space, and now we've got to give the URL for GitHub. So that's https://denison-cs/cs181-s21.git. All right, so let's take a look at that command before we execute it. So git is the name of the command. Clone is one of the options that the git command provides, and that's to do the operation that we're interested in, cloning a particular repository. The repository name is then given next by a URL, https://github.com gets us to the cloud server, Denison CS gets us to our organization, and cs181-s21.git gets us the particular repository that we want to clone. All right. Connecting to GitHub requires giving credentials. This is a private repository, so here it brings up a window and says, do you want to sign in with your browser, or do you have a personal access token? We want to sign in with our browser. All right, so it'll bring up the browser window and authorize the Git credential manager. Now, make sure when you look at this that it's accessing the right account, and I'm going to authorize. Authentication succeeded. We can close this tab and return to our application. So this is the kind of thing that will only have to be done once. All right? If we take a look, then after our command, which was in this line right here, we see the actual messages associated with the clone. All right, we're cloning into CS181-S21. That's really saying what the name of the folder that's going to hold this repository is on our local system. And then it gives us some information and some progress. And then done. Done is good. All right, so now the directory that the command line window is still in is my home directory, desktop, right? Just like my file window here. And in my file window over here, I can see that now I have CS181 Spring 21. That's a file folder. And so if I click on that, I can see general and review and weekly and readme.md. These are the same things that I would see in the view from GitHub. Over here on my Anaconda PowerShell prompt, I can move into that directory. I can say cd to cs181-s21 and then ls, and I see the same 4 things that I see in my file window. Okay, so there's an exact correspondence. These are just 2 views on the same reality. One's a graphical view, one's a command line view. Students are reticent to use the command line, but the command line is going to be the way that we get those incremental pieces time after time. Okay, the one last thing that I'll do right now in this example so that you can see how we would then use what we've downloaded. All right, so the clone initially, or when we do these incremental steps and I say in class, do a git pull in order to get the most recent version of things, you'll do that and then you'll bring up your Jupyter Notebook. So the Jupyter Notebook comes up in your browser, and we can see that this also starts at my home directory. If I take a look at this folder view, I can see here's desktop. I click on desktop. Yay, I see CS181 S21. Right? In the future, we'll have homework that appears in here. But for now, we can take a look at an actual notebook by going to review, and we see that there's a list instruction 1.ipynb. So when we're executing files, we're going to be using Python notebooks, and the extension for those is .ipynb. List instruction 1, I bring that up, and I see the notebook that I've created that gives us some documentation. Right? We see some labels here, list review, construction lists, and I also see a cell that has a set of Python statements in it, and I can run that cell, and that set of statements now got executed in Python. Right? And that's the paradigm that we'll be using from now on. Okay, so that's cloning your GitHub repository. That's the last of the really important preliminary steps so that we can work with our Python notebooks in class for this semester. Thank you.